Welcome to the Awakened Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the Awakened Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters, and today's conversation has a lot to do with feminine energy, that beautiful, vibrant, feminine energy, and how women are doing a lot of it the wrong way. We're using so much of our masculine energy to do things, to achieve things, instead of just resting in our beingness, just by being and allowing the masculine energy to support us. We've got it turned around where we're leading more from the masculine instead of leading more from the feminine, and allowing the masculine, which we need, to support us, because we still have to do things and make things happen. But when we're resting in our feminine energy, things just really come more naturally to us, and we're much more fulfilled and happy as women because we're returning more to our natural state. Today's conversation is with Allyson Chavez, who literally oozes feminine energy. She has learned how to embody the divine feminine and harness that energy to create a life that she loves on every level. Allyson developed Success Without Struggle, the prosperity approach, because her own journey was filled with so much struggle she practically choked on it every day. She built up a multi-six-figure business online in less than 2 years, but because she was creating from a scarcity mindset and from the feeling that I'm not enough, I can't do it anymore, and the fear of losing it all actually came to fruition. She lost her business, she went into bankruptcy, she gained 45 pounds, and she was at a low in her life. When she developed and applied these principles, she learned how to quickly and permanently change her beliefs in an easy, simple, and fun way, and her weight, 45 pounds, gone in over 5 months. Allyson is passionate about teaching ambitious, God-centered women how to get out of their own way so they can easily and consistently hit their targets and also feel peace and joy as they go. She teaches women how to get phenomenal results with ease, bend time and space, achieve their goals without hustle or grind, and reshape the reality in feminine energy. No more constant pushing. Allyson believes that challenge is necessary on your journey to success, but the struggle isn't. Her mission is to end the struggle and bring joy to the lives of millions of women around the globe. Now, when we start these conversations, we never know where it's going to lead us. And we talk a lot about the feminine and masculine energies and how to use it to transform your own life. And then the conversation took us wherever Spirit wanted to take us. And we started talking about what we see happening on the world stage as far as the whole narrative around gender and the trans movement, which we are seeing this from a place of love because we come from love and we know the truth of who we are as women. And a lot of it is upside down world. And we're seeing it invading a lot of women's spaces where it's not going to feel safe for a woman to be a woman anymore. I mean, they're going into the women's locker rooms and women's sports where biologically we're different and men have biological advantages than us. There are such beautiful, unique differences between men and women, and we need to embrace that. I mean, women, we carry life in our wombs and we are portals to other dimensions. And we have such a different psychological, physiological difference than the men. And we can balance each other. And we need to learn to embrace that and support each other. This push has gotten so far that people are afraid of speaking out against whatever they're telling us, which is just bizarre world to me half the time. And speak up, but so many people are afraid of being canceled or being name called like you're transphobic or it's hate speech. I mean, We need to start standing up for our rights as women from a place of love. Everything seems to be speeding up, and if we don't start speaking up, we might be living in an episode of The Handmaid's Tale if we're not careful. So this conversation, it has all these ebbs and flows. It's a beautiful, empowering conversation. So without further ado, here's today's guest, Allyson Chavez. Hi, Allyson. Welcome to the Awaken Heart podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Nancy.
I'm excited to have you here and to have this conversation. I am so inspired by you and everything that you have been through yourself and everything that you're doing to help women to really live their life the best life possible, coming from their femininity, getting out of the struggle and, having to strive for things and getting into what is naturally innate to themselves, their own femininity, where we can really create everything from a place of just being rested into the true version of ourselves, our truth and our power and our own real divine divinity within ourselves. And when we we really emanate outwards, and really things can really just fall into place and line up. And, there isn't that struggle. We don't have to go out and really, hustle to do things, and things really naturally come to us when we're from that state of knowing who we are and what we have to offer. And you went through so much in your own life, and where I'll let you go into this yourself because you can describe it much better than I can, but where you really realized a lot of success, you realized a lot of success, and you obtained all these things, but then you lost it all.
Yeah.
And you discovered a way to have it all again from a more natural place, and where it's staying and where it exponentially expanded into this amazing life for yourself, your family, your clients, and your business. So I know I give a little bit of your intro, but if you could tell our audience who you are and where you were to where you are now, where you started to where you are now. Your story.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I am a success and life coach for professional God-centered women. And I really teach them how to live in feminine and tap into masculine so that they can leap to higher and higher levels of success without the struggle, without the hustle, the grind, the burnout, the frustration, so they can live the life that they desire and be in love with their life as well. And so, yes, much to your point, I created a successful company the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't say the wrong way. It was the very inefficient way as a woman. I did it in hustle. I did it in grind. I did it in enormous amounts of workload, so much pressure. And I was terrified out of my mind most days because I was so far outside my comfort zone. But I did take my business from ground zero to multiple six figures in just about 2 years. And I remember very clearly the day when I had my first $20,000 month, and the overarching feeling I felt was tired. I was tired to my bones, and I felt empty. And I wanted to throw the covers over my head and sleep all week long until Saturday. And because Saturday was the only day I would allow myself to play. But every morning I would wake up with the same thought. And the thought was, I don't want to do this day. And I wasn't suicidal and I wasn't depressed. I was just so completely exhausted because I was depleted. I had been in so much masculine energy and so much terror because I didn't actually believe I made a difference. And I'm super ambitious. And so I would do all the things that my coaches told me to do with this feeling and this thought in the back of my mind, don't blow this. And what if this doesn't work? And who do you really think you are? It was terrible. My inner speak was just terrible. And, I really didn't think I made a big difference. I felt like the world's biggest fraud. I didn't feel successful. I was still really worried about money all the time. This was the first time in my life we'd had that kind of money. And so even though I could buy anything I wanted without having to look at a price tag, and I'd never had that experience before, I would wake up in anxiety every morning between 2 and 3 with the thought of, what have you done?
It's
You've
always that
created this.
time too, right?
Oh
It's
gosh.
always the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock
Yes.
hour where the
Yes.
stress
It
happens.
was terrible. Yeah. And my guts were twisted in anxiety. And I'm like, how in the world am I
Mm.
going to maintain this? What if I lose it all? What if something worse than death happens, which to me at that time was bankruptcy? So I had this huge fear of bankruptcy in my mind, and it drove me all the time. This fear drove me, not in a good way. And then my business began to fall because your reality will always match your inner programs and beliefs, always.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Out
the
picturing.
business, the business started to fall. So I started to work harder. And the harder I worked, the faster that thing fell. And it did land in my worst nightmare, which was a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I remember when the dust finally settled, I had this moment of lucidity. And I was like, oh my word, I created this and I didn't mean to. I wonder if I could create my way out of this. And I really think that at that point, like when I put down the beat up stick of you're the world's biggest loser and you screwed everything up and you've hurt your family financially, like when I finally like shelved all of that nonsense and just owned it without blaming myself, that was the moment I think that my true self could shine through. And that was when I could actually receive those downloads from God and where he could actually work through me. I really feel like God was like, all right, angels, like she's ready, put her on the field. We can do this. She's suited up. She's ready to go. And there were 3 things that I needed to learn. I needed to learn how to live in feminine and tap into masculine, because all I knew how to do was be masculine. All I knew was action, massive action all the time. Make it bigger, double your effort. Like it was terrible. It was terrible. So I needed to balance those energies and lead in feminine. I needed to learn how to reprogram my subconscious beliefs. And I needed to learn how money actually works on an energetic and a spiritual level. I didn't need another budgeting class. I just need to know how the true mechanics of money, like the quantum mechanics of money. And I learned that in a very, very short time, like a month. And then I started to apply it. And within 6 months, I went from Chapter 13 bankruptcy to $232,000 in our account. I went from 6 clients to 97. I had gained 45 pounds in 2 years because I was so afraid to fall. What better way to cushion my fall than 45 extra pounds on my butt? But I released all of that in 4.5 months, and it was easy and it was fast and it was effortless. And I had a wonderful support system around me. I revolutionized my relationship with my husband, with my children. I could finally be present with them. And I realized, oh, holy cow, not only did I crack the manifesting code, I learned how to actually be a woman and be in the energy of the feminine, which is the creative energy. And then learn how to let masculine support. And that was when I just knew so clearly, like, this is my mission. This is my calling, to teach women how to be instead of do, so that they can learn how to trust feminine and get phenomenal results without the hustle, because you can get phenomenal results in hustle. You can get it in masculine energy. We see it all over the place, but it has such a high price tag. It robs us of our joy. It robs us of our radiance. It actually, for women, it literally kills us from the inside out, very slowly and subtly, but it kills us. And there's a better, higher, faster, easier, more pleasurable way to live. And since I've been teaching that, we've gone from, 232,000 in 6 months, and we've doubled it, and we've brought in millions and kept the weight off for 4 years. And like everything has just gotten better and better and better. And there's been challenges, and there's been heartbreaks, and there have been things that didn't work along the way. But as I have learned how to allow and how to let go and get out of the way, things just open up so beautifully. Like it's just a miracle. It's a miracle.
I like what you said as far as the weight, because a lot of us talk about losing weight. We're going to lose weight. But what happens when you lose something? You find it again, right?
Yeah.
And it comes back on. So if you're releasing it, you're letting it go. And hence you've let it stay off for 4 years. And that's a lot of things in our own life. You release things and, you let it go. And that's like also in the feminine, also is in surrendering. And then we have the receptive energy to, receive the gifts like that you did, and supporting, allowing the masculine to support the feminine instead of being the masculine, which isn't, natural to us, is to be in that masculine. I love that, because there's that beautiful dance of the feminine and masculine. We need both, and we've got both inside of us. Yes. And instead of having to be one or another, they're working they're working together and one is supporting the other. I love that image of the divine masculine supporting the feminine, because you've got him working with us. It's all part of us. So I love how it's so descriptive. I can just see it supporting that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about a couple that ballroom dances. Without the man, without the masculine, the woman, the feminine can't do her spins. She can't do her dips. She can't do the beautiful lifts. And without the feminine, there is no point to the masculine. I mean, could you just imagine some man just like lifting up air and just like supporting nothing? I mean, it's laughable. Yeah. It's laughable because like there's no reason for him to be there if the feminine isn't there. And people have such a hard time with that. And women need to live in their feminine. They need to lead out with their feminine, not their masculine. And I noticed that the more successful women become, the more masculine they become, because that's the only thing that our society actually rewards and actually like respects. The feminine has been devalued and diminished and demeaned for centuries, but it is actually the more powerful creative energy. But you do need both in working together in balance and alliance. But balance doesn't mean 50-50. For a woman, it means 70-30 or 80-20. And women have a very hard time trusting the feminine. But when you do, oh my word, Nancy, like life just, you tap into magic. And it's very practical. It's not like, okay, I'm going to sit on my rainbow and pet my unicorn and, suck on my lollipop all day. It's not that. It's very practical. It's very grounded, but you see how powerful you are to co-create with God or your higher power, the life that you desire, and to navigate through heartbreak, to navigate through life's challenges and adversity with grace, with ease, with joy, and with flow. And it is that process of releasing all the time. It's letting go all the time. You said surrender. And that's what I'm in this year, is this great big surrender experiment. Can I surrender my way to what I desire, to that next level of me and that next level of living? And wow, it is a ride already. It's been amazing, but it's not easy.
And
There's
no, it's not. But you have the tools to bring him back there. Just like there's instances in my own life where I'd get worried or fearing the future. Like then if I'm in a fear, I'm afraid of the future, or if I'm stressing about something from the past. It's just not worth it. But when we get into that flow, just like, what would the feminine do? What would the divine feminine do? And she's just like, and then you can just drop in, because the divine feminine is just all knowing. She's all knowing. She's peace. She's flow. She's grace. She's beauty. It just can bring me back into that state. And that's the thing also now. And we're seeing a huge push. The women have feminine. It's always been kept down for so long. And we were leaders for so long. We had high places in our society, and we were really looked to and revered. And that was crushed years ago. And we're seeing it now where there is the rising of the feminine, and it's happening. But then we've got this whole other push that's being taught in these colleges and in grade school and all this, that it has to be equal, and it's equality. And the feminist movement, while it had so many good things that happened from it, it's also taken us away from our own natural state. And it's pushing against, the patriarchy, or the man, they're bad, they're wrong, and all that. And it's just, how do you help maybe the younger generation? It seems like a lot of the younger generation has been taught that masculinity is bad, and we have to be, like the man, and we should be equal in everything. And, don't open that door for me. And how dare you? And like, I love that stuff. Like, please.
Well, and I think when you understand that we're not talking about gender, we're not talking about battle of the sexes, we're not making men better than women or women better than men, because quite honestly, down with the patriarchy and up with the matriarchy is the same kind of problem. We need to have balance. We need to work in alliance. But what we're talking about here are energies of creation, and it's the feminine energy and the masculine energy, and they have both equally important and complementary jobs that they do. And so we need them both, but the feminine is the vision. The feminine is the unknown. The feminine is like that's why it's so important to lead with that. And masculine is divinely designed to support feminine. It's why men are naturally inclined to open the door for a woman, not because she's not capable of opening her own door, but because it's in deference, it's in respect to that feminine energy, to allow them to flow. And when we realize that men and women are biologically wired very differently, we have the same cells, we have the same brains, and we're different in every cell in our body. We don't have the same brains, but we both have brains. But the communication center in a woman's brain is bigger than the communication center in a man's brain. The way that we process information is completely different from the way that we are naturally, divinely, biologically wired. And it doesn't make women less than, it doesn't make men less than, it makes us different. And when we will just rise to that and understand that masculine is divinely designed to support the feminine, and masculine gets great pleasure in serving feminine, and feminine gets great pleasure in inspiring masculine. And so they both get to be put on a pedestal, so to speak. And then we start realizing that the feminist movement masculinized women, and the feminist movement neutered men. And although, to your point, it has had wonderful blessings that has come from it, and wonderful opportunities for equalization for women and men, meaning that women get greater opportunities, it has come at such a high price tag, because now, like, equal does not mean the same. And I don't want to be a man. I don't want to be the same as a man. I have my own unique gifts. I have my own unique talents. Women have a natural connection to the eternal that men don't have. Women have a natural connection to their intuition that men don't have. That doesn't mean men aren't spiritual or aren't intuitive, but it is not inherent in them like it is in women. That's very inspiring. Men want to be able to support that in their women, because they know that when she's in flow and she wants to create, everybody is blessed by that. When a woman will tap into her desire and trust it and follow her desire, because of the way that we're wired. And yeah, this culture that we're in right now, and like all of the vitriol that's going on, and make us the same, and women are disappearing, and men can be women, and no, you can't. You're not. You don't need to be. You don't need to be. If we will just, I really think this identity crisis is because we've forgotten whose we are. We're gods. We're part of the stars. We're part of divinity, and we've forgotten our divine identity. And when we do, and like when we remember that and we embrace that and make our gifts okay, then we can be so powerful and have such a positive impact in our own lives, in our families' lives, and in the world. But right now, I'm just like, holy cow, we're in the upside down. This is crazy what's going on right now. But there will be a reset. I really think it's a loss of love that has happened, that people have forgotten how to love themselves and how to really love each other. And so when we'll accept each other, and we'll just like, love is the answer, and love and tolerance are not the same thing. But love is the answer. And when you'll get curious about your own gifts as a woman, and curious about your own gifts as a man, rather than judging them as better or worse than others, life can open up, and you can be a really powerful instrument for good.
And I feel that there is a push right now on purpose to really keep dividing people, because unified, we talk about unity, masculine, feminine, all life. Like, once we're unified, we're unstoppable. Like, it's just to put us in these little boxes, and especially the women, because there's the rising of the feminine. We need the feminine in men, like the divine feminine in the woman, just like he'll be the masculine, but the divine feminine is supporting the masculine. It's not like trading one for the other.
Right.
But there's this push to keep so separate from each other, and it's confusing a lot of the generations, because there isn't, I mean, yes, there's male and female. You can't, it's just it's an upside down world. Like you said, I just can't believe what's being taught and all that. And I think it's really trying to infiltrate the feminine space to keep us crushed. It's another way of keeping the feminine from rising. And my point to this is, there isn't putting us in all these little boxes, all these different identities and boxing it again, we are the I am. It's just like, what do you identify? I am, because we are. And that's all encompassing. I am. Don't divide me into this little box. I am a female. I'm a woman, but before that, I am. And it's such a beautiful thing that people really need to stop all these little, putting myself in these little boxes and just, I am. And I see the divine in you. Namaste. And it's more than that. It's like love, like it's not this airy fairy thing. It is an energy and it's a consciousness, and it's real, and it's a love consciousness. There's divine in everybody, even something, it's like what you put in darkness, you also puts you in darkness, and what you, what you damns you back. So, there's divine in everything.
Yeah.
And
well, and I really believe, and I don't know your spiritual philosophies, but I believe in good and evil. And I believe in God, and I also believe in Satan. There has to be opposites in absolutely everything. And what better way to control a person than to make them confused about their very identity?
Yes.
And we're so busy either fighting each other. Like if we don't know who we are, we're really, really easy to control. And if there's always the threat of being canceled or the threat of hate speech, because this is your belief system, and if it doesn't match perfectly with something that just is wrong, biology is biology. It is not a social construct. It's a real thing. And I'm not allowed to have my belief system if it's different from something that I know in my soul is incorrect. Suddenly I'm hateful. Then we're too busy actually leaning into our mission. We're too busy either defending who we are or being upset at somebody who's different, or not even knowing who we are. And we're so easy to control when we're in fear. We're so easy to control. And governments have been doing it since time began. This isn't just, the last 10 years that this has happened. This has been going on for centuries all over the world. And it's just a fact. It's really easy to control you when you're in any kind of fear, and when you don't know who you are at your very basic and your very core, then how can you even know what your mission is if you don't even know who you are or whose you are?
Yep. And it takes away, you're not being responsible for yourself. It's your fault. Yeah. It's somebody else's fault. Like, oh, you don't see me as like, how dare you? It's a woman. How dare you call me a woman or a man or whatever it is? And you're getting so offended by that, what someone else thinks. It's not your responsibility what someone else thinks about you. Like if someone calls me a man and I'm a woman, okay, buddy, whatever, that can be in your world. I know who I am, because it's not knowing who you are. Like at a core level, like if you really believe that you're, like I am a woman, you're calling me a man. Okay, well, I know I'm a woman. So, but it's taking away your own personal responsibility, pointing the finger at somebody else, keeping people divided, and it's like, if you think you're a cat or whatever, like you have some deep inner work to do, or there's some deep inner work to do.
Yes, there's some healing that needs to happen. There's some illness going on inside that needs love and that needs to be healed. And and I say that with love, and I say that with compassion, but that's the truth of what's going on. And I've worked with a variety of people. And I just love them as who they are. I just love them as Jane, or love them as Jack, or whoever they are. I love them as my brother or my sister, or as a fellow human being on this planet. But I can't, in my own good conscience, to say, okay, well, you think you're a cat, so now you're a cat. Like you're not a cat.
Right.
You're not a cat. And I can't pretend. I can't pretend with you.
No,
I won't pretend with you, but I'll still love you. I'll still love you and have compassion for you, because that's got to be really painful and really, really confusing when you don't even know the basic of who you are. I'm loving this conversation. Do you want to know why? Because I've always been scared to have this conversation.
I know. I never know how my guests are going to. I know some people stay away from the subject, but it's such an important subject because it's so being amped and pushed right now that, like, and they're changing language around stuff, and they're taking away mother, they're taking away daughter, they're taking away she, he, like, and then, men are like going into women's lockers room or women's prisons. Like, no, women need to feel safe.
Yeah.
And you're not taking this language. I worked really hard to be a woman. I love being a woman. I bleed every month. We have our emotions, we have our hormones, we have our DNA, our lineage of women. And you can't just come in and replace that. We can love everyone. Like you were saying, there's still male and female. Like, if you choose to love each other, but there's still a male and female, no matter what there is, no matter what you identify, it's a male or female. There's biological differences. If you want to be whoever you want to be, we're going to love you for it, but don't, people are changing and becoming all fluid, and you're going to get all offended because you were this one day and then this another day. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm not down with that.
Yeah. I won't play that game. I respectfully will not. I don't like the game Monopoly. I won't play Monopoly. If somebody else wants to play Monopoly, play Monopoly. I'm not going to play in this woke game. I won't play it. And somebody's going to say I'm a hater, and so, like, whatever, like, you get to think whatever you want about me, and I get to not be bothered by it.
Exactly.
And I can still love, and you don't have to love me back, because I don't need you to love me. And this is my expression, and this is truth, but like, truth has been absolutely turned on its head, and society is crumbling. Society is crumbling because of it. And so we've got to have some people that like have some common sense, and to be like, hold on, the emperor has no clothes. Like, the emperor is actually a man, or the empress is actually a woman. Like, no, I'm not going to subscribe to that, because I don't see people happy that are subscribing to that. Now people are just afraid to say anything. It's so afraid to offend. Like, I read somewhere that there are, I don't know, 8 million new genders or identities or whatever. I'm making that number up, but one of them identifies as fragile as glass.
What? Oh,
that's what their identity is fragile as glass. And I thought, wow, what a difficult life are you creating for yourself if you are fragile as glass? Because universal laws are universal laws, and they're not going to change because you feel like a cat today, or because you want to create in a way that you're not actually intended to create. It's why women don't know how to be women, because we've been masculinized, and we're not. Allyson Armstrong calls it a shorter, less hairy man. We are not shorter, less hairy men, and men are not misbehaving women. One thing that men have never had, and this is according to Allyson Armstrong, is that they don't have fear for their physical safety. They can walk down, like I have a son in college, and he would walk the streets of his college town at 2 and 3 in the morning. And I was horrified at that thought. Now he lives in a safe community, but I would never walk the streets alone, or even with another woman at 2 o'clock in the morning, no matter how safe the streets are, because I don't know what's there. But so women have this natural, like, we got to be aware of our surroundings, because, like it or not, we are the physically weaker sex. Men have 16 times more testosterone naturally occurring in their bodies than women do. And some man putting on lipstick and a dress and wearing a padded bra, even if he's taking hormone blockers, still has more testosterone that naturally occurs in his body than a woman has, which means he can walk into a locker room without any sort of fear for his physical safety, because intuitively he knows that he can take out any woman in that locker room. They have a wider wingspan. They have wider lung capacity. They have bigger hearts than women. Putting a dress on doesn't change any of that. And we have to be aware of our surroundings, because even a woman who is taller than a man, that man is still physically stronger than that woman. And men have never realized that like, men don't carry mace. Women do. Women have, I had a friend who grew up in Philadelphia, and she would have her keys in her hand, back when we actually had keys and not just a fob, but she would put keys in between each of her fingers if she was walking out to her car at night to defend herself. Smart. Because that's the city she lived in, and so one is not better than the other. We need each other. And as women, when we lean into the feminine energy of creation, we let go of stress. We let go of struggle. It's not easy to do at first because we've been programmed to be shorter, less hairy men, and we're not. And by the way, men are not misbehaving women either. Their brains are wired completely differently from ours, which serves them and serves us as well, where it's complementary. But when we will trust the feminine, then we will come to love who we are as women. We'll come to have a greater sense of self. That's another thing that women don't have. Like, we don't come with a sense of identity. Men do. Like, it's not factory installed in us. It's why we can trade hats so quickly as women. We can be a mother, we can be a daughter, we can be a businesswoman, we can be an air traffic controller. Like, I mean, we can like trade hats so quickly, and men have a really hard time with that. That's why women are great at multitasking and men aren't, because of the way that we're wired. But the flip side of that is that we don't have an inherent sense of self. So when you criticize a woman, we take it personally instantly. When a man is criticized, he very naturally just goes to, do I even respect this person? Like, did they have any ground to stand on? Nope, they really don't. So they can just flip criticism away with a flick of their finger. But with us, it will crush us. So even a woman wanting to transition into a man doesn't suddenly just have this new sense of identity. And I know this because I know people who have transitioned and they're just as miserable as the opposite gender as they were. They're just as confused. There's no peace. Yeah. It's because their wiring isn't changed. Like, you don't suddenly have diffuse awareness that's what women have. That's why we're aware of everything around us. And men have single focus. It's why here's the mission. Let's go on the mission. That's why you can't, give a man verbal instructions that have 8 things on the list and have them remember it. Because it's not because they're dumb. It's because they're single focused. So give me one mission and I'll accomplish the mission, and then give me another mission. And women can be like, oh, I got to do this, got to go to the cleaners, and I got to hit the store. Oh, I got to go get the prescription, like all of that. And we can remember it. It's because we have diffused awareness. That doesn't change. That you don't suddenly have diffuse awareness going from a man to a woman. You don't suddenly have single focus going from a woman to a man. You don't. And if you're an adult and that's the way you choose to express yourself, then like, good on you. What I take issue with is the way that they're trying to program children. And that is evil. And that is insidious.
I 100% agree. I cannot believe what's being taught in school. As for one, and the children can be taken away from their family if they don't affirm with them. Like, they're so pushing on these blockers that where literally the hugest percentage of these kids regret their decision after they've already partially transitioned. But you want to transition a child, start doing that or castrating them. Like, my sister was a tomboy and then she became the biggest girly girl. Let them be children. Let them play and experiment. Don't push this on them. Well, it's a big moneymaker in what they're doing. And the next generation is going to be so soft that they hope to be so soft, but I think we're going to flip it on its axis. But they want them to be so soft because they're so pliable and they're so confused. But leave our children alone. Like, you can't even drive. You can't rent a car until you're 25 years old. So you're going to chop off pieces and change your sex. I mean, it's just deplorable and it's not acceptable. And I think the majority of us don't agree with it. It's just the way the media pushes it because there's agenda at work. They're pushing it. It sounds like there's all these laws and they're pushing it on us. But most of us are like, heck no. Even like a lot of the gay community, they're like, there's a one that I follow, Gays Against Groomers. They're like, this isn't what we're about. Stay away from these children. This isn't meant for children, and stop. This isn't what we became, what we're gay for. This isn't what we stand for. And we're against this, but they're censored as well too for hate speech and all this. Like,
yes. Isn't it? I hope, and I believe in angels, and I believe in God, and I believe in miracles. And I hope that our message and our conversation that we're having will reach people's ears. But it's a very, very small majority, but they are so loud and it's filled with so many lies that we think it's the majority. But the majority is being silent and silenced But when we keep having these kinds of conversations, when we with each other, with our children, when we refuse, like our youngest is 16, and we've homeschooled and online had her do online school at a school that's aligned with our values, a school that's aligned with the principles of actual truth. And we have these conversations. We have these conversations with her that is based on truth and based on principles that the universe actually works by. And so I feel like, okay, we got her grounded, but I got 3 boys in college, and thankfully they haven't been indoctrinated by that. One of my sons was for a little while, and then he kind of came to himself and he was like, wait a minute, this is not actually what I believe. My daughter was groomed for a little while when she was 12 and 13. And that was really scary for us. And then she was, when she like came to herself again, and she was like, oh no, actually I am, she didn't go into transgender. She had other sexual identity crises. And without, wanting to tell her story too much, because it's not my story to tell, but she did say, I think what I thought was I have to support them. And in order to support them, I have to be one of them. I'm like, oh, yep. That's what is being taught, that if you're not one of us, then you're against us. Or if you're not completely, supporting our agenda, then you're the most hateful, awful person on the planet. And that is just not true. And I hope that more voices that are speaking sanity and that are speaking protecting our children will be heard. And the way we do that is just by continuing to talk about this. And Nancy, I admire your courage so much. I've been thinking about this for such a long time. I haven't even talked about this on my own podcast. But I'm so grateful that we're part of this.
Thank you for having this conversation. Yeah, because I don't care. Like, you can cancel me. Like, I might lose that YouTube account. I don't care. I'll find somewhere else to get the word up, because I am a solar feminine, which is like the dark feminine, which is like, there's the soft feminine, there's the lunar feminine, but the solar feminine, I'm mad and I'm enraged at what's happening to society and the world and the children. And then she's the protector. She's the fighter. She's the change maker.
And that's one thing that people don't understand about feminine energy. They think it's this soft, pliable, girly and feminine are not the same thing. They're really not. Feminine energy is fierce. It can also be soft, but man, it can be fierce. They don't call it Papa Bear. They call it Mama Bear. I went Mama Bear on them. We can get absolutely fierce, and that is feminine energy. And I really appreciate this conversation, because I've been trying to make sense of it in my own mind, because I am triggered in a visceral level at some men's behavior that's all over social media, who are claiming to be women and actually continuing to demean women. And they're the spokesperson for a women's beauty company and Woman of the Year, Woman of the Year, who is a man.
No, how is that?
He has a penis. He's a man, like not even a transitioned man. And like, so I get triggered at a visceral level, and I'm like, okay, this is the law of projection. So what insecurities or what intolerance in me? And then I was talking with my husband about it, and he's like, but this is just like basic foundational identity and morality. And you should feel like triggered by that. Like, I think it's my divine feminine that is just wanting to roar and be like, whatever you interpret in me is not my business. Just like whatever I interpret in you is not your business. But I can also stand for my truth, the truth about how we are divinely designed. And if God is omnipresent and omniscient and is perfect, then nobody is in the wrong sex. Nobody's in the wrong body. I really think that there was some sort of abuse that had happened, that have happened in young children that now want to be a different gender because they don't feel safe being a boy or being a girl. I firmly believe that. And I think that there's also a mental illness that is at play as well.
Yeah, to mutilate.
And I have compassion for that. And I have, and if somebody who is an adult chooses to live a transgender lifestyle or a whatever gay, bi, or whatever lifestyle they choose, that's their choice. But
100%.
don't force me to applaud or to like, don't force me to be supportive of something that I don't support. That doesn't mean I don't support you as a person. I don't support that kind of a lifestyle, but I'm also not going to hate against it. So don't hate me against my traditional marriage, heterosexual, monogamous lifestyle. It's interesting. The agenda that's all about tolerance and love has zero tolerance and zero love for anybody who dares say anything that's even hinted at, like, maybe there's a different option.
Yeah. I mean, doctors even, you're not supposed to even gender them at birth. Yes, it's a penis and it's a vagina. It's a boy or it's a girl, like just XY chromosomes and
the XX chromosome.
Yeah. XX, yeah. It's completely different. It's science. And how is this supporting women? It's not supporting women. There's no women's rights at all. I mean, they're going to go into prisons. Like, men are going to take the opportunity to say that there are some that really may be identified, but a majority of them are going to be like, oh, I'm going to identify women. I'm going to go into this women's locker room and you can't kick me out. And they're not even like, the women are getting kicked out of like the YMCA. An 80-year-old woman got kicked out of a YMCA because she complained because there was a guy that was in a room with little girls undressing, and she got canceled from that membership. And then they're going to enter prison systems. What about crisis centers where women, domestic abuse, and this man is going to go in there? It's not keeping women safe. And there's differences like athletes. There's always going to be a biological difference, and the man is always going to win in a sporting event. This is not acceptable. It shouldn't be tolerated. People need to speak up. A lot of women, they're, oh, I want to be the nice person and I want to be, but this isn't accepting. This isn't, it's like
not. And that also lends to how women are wired. Women are wired for social acceptance.
Yep.
Men are wired to be higher on the pecking order. Men have no problem with conflict and beating their chests, and women are wired differently because we're wired for community and for connection. It's why this is just so insidious and so scary, because the thought of being canceled silences so many women. I think her name's Riley Gaines. She was on a podcast that I listened to or watched a little while ago, and she was an NCAA champion swimmer, and she went up against Will Thompson. I'm not going to call him her because he is a man. And she started speaking up, and there were a lot of other athletes, female athletes, that said, thank you so much for being this voice. If I said anything, then I lose my sponsorship, or the college is threatening to take away grad school from me if I say anything against this. And she said, at first I was like, hey, that's okay, I'll be the voice. And then she thought, well, wait a second. She said, the longer she's been at this, the more she's like, you need to be willing to sacrifice some things. She's like, my life, she's like, I should be in dental school right now. That was my plan, but I'm speaking up against this because this is so wrong. And I am completely on a different track in my whole life. So if there's something that's important to you, then you need to be willing to sacrifice the sponsorship or being canceled or like whatever that was. And I was like, bravo, you are my hero, like, well done. And she's getting lots of traction, and I fully support her in that, because that is 100% wrong on every level. If you want to be transgender, you still compete against your natural birth biology.
Yeah, because all these women that would have been number one, they don't get their sponsorships because this man won. And it's not fair, and it's happening. And I just saw that there was a girls' high school team. I think it was soccer. It was one of those where it was soccer, where they forfeited going to the finals because they knew there was a man on the other team, and they knew they wouldn't win against that. So they didn't go at all. The whole team didn't go. And that's not fair.
No,
and
it's not right.
No, it's not right. And we need more women that are speaking up. And I know a lot of men are. I mean, I see it. You don't really see it on mainstream. Not that I watch mainstream news, but there's a lot of women that are standing up for ourselves. There's a lot of the community that is standing up, and we just need to use our voices because it's an upside down world. And no, there's women's rights, and you have to be the voice to make the change. And then if you get canceled from one end, or if you don't lose a sponsor here, you're going to gain a whole other community, on a whole other tribe of people that are supporting, or that are holding the space for something new to happen, and not let all these radical agendas push through. Because I'm sorry, I had my work that I did. They're like, oh, well, we want equity and inclusion. And, in your signature, if you want to put an identity like them X and hymns with an X in your bio, it'll show that, you're supportive and they feel inclusive. I'm like, how do they not feel inclusive by me? Like 50 years of my life, I've been on this planet and I've always been inclusive, and I will not. And I will quit my job and you can fire me before I'm going to put something in my bio. If I did anything, it would be I am, but I'm not doing anything in my bio.
Yeah, I won't play the game. And I think that it helps us too, because this does take courage.
Mm-hmm.
This does take courage to speak up against something that is just it appears to be a very big vicious beast right now. Mm-hmm. And that can be with anything that you feel fearful about. If you will have the basic foundation that everything is always working out for you, and that you are connected to limitless supply, and that the universe has your back, and only good can come of this, then it allows you to be detached from the sponsorship, or detached from the job, or detached from the way that the money is coming in. And you get more attached to your source, to God, to your higher power, which gives us that courage to lean into the words that need to be said, or our gifts and what we're here to create. And let that be our source, and not other people's good opinion of us be our source.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helps us to step up and to speak our truth.
Mm-hmm. And if you know that God is your source, or whatever you believe in, universe, God, it's all the same thing, love, mm-hmm. consciousness, mm-hmm. you know that you're going to be lifted and supported, because mm-hmm. you are standing in your truth. You're standing up for what you know is right, and what you know is truth, and what is aligned, and you're helping other people. Like you're going to be taken care of. You are going to be lifted on angels' wings, and something that you might not even dreamed of, opportunity is going to open up for you. So it's like knowing that this is right, and knowing that you're going to be lifted and supported. Forget the sponsorship. There's might be something even 10 times great.
There is
mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. something 10 times better than that sponsorship for you. And when you realize, like, this is not aligning with my beliefs, this is not, or even this isn't resonating with who I am or where I want to go. So I'm going to let go of this and trust that something even more aligned with who I am and who I am becoming is actually going to come fit in its place, because that's how the universe works. That's how vibration actually works. So I like that you say we don't want to fight against it, but we do need to rise, and we do need to share our voice and continue to be the voice of reason and the voice of truth in this very untrue, divisive climate mm-hmm. that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the how is this going to happen? How you just have to let go and allow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Which is the hardest thing to do, but it's doable. And I practice it every day. I'm sure you do as well. And yes. just lean into the allowing and trusting and moving mm-hmm. forward one little step at a time. And then those steps become quantum leaps before mm-hmm. too long.
Yes. And that's where the tapping into that divine feminine energy, when you get wrapped up in the how and the doing and the all that energy, it's just coming back to a place, coming back to home, and going into that divine knowing, and just know that you're going to be supported. And so always coming back to that.
Yes.
Place. Yeah.
Always. Yep. many times a day are Sundays in my life where I just got to keep going back to home, going back to truth, coming back to my source.
Yes. Yes. And you had talked about something about quantum leaping and bending space and time. And so, I mean, we could take this example about this, where we went into this whole, transgender movement and women's rights and all this. How can somebody that might, that's maybe listening to this or watching this and being like, oh my gosh, I wish I had the courage to speak up. I wish I know something needs to be done and changed. How can I have the courage to do the same? Like, how can they maybe take a quantum leap into, maybe this week starting to become the change maker? Or
I would say allow it to be a small step.
mm-hmm.
Allow it to, because when we think about a quantum leap, and if you've never done it before, it's very intimidating. So like, now I need to have a huge platform and I need to now go speak in front of Congress. No,
Mm-hmm.
how about you have a conversation with somebody about what your true beliefs are? What if you created a post? And then what I like to do is I call it post and ghost. Like I'll post. I don't care what the comments are, good, bad, or neutral. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, this is just my position on that. And just, would you be willing to lean into it? Will you just lean into it? Are you willing? Are you willing to say, actually, I'm not going to put pronouns on because that's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to play this game. I can't
Mm-hmm.
play this game. And I choose out of playing this game. And I can do that in a respectful way without being hateful, regardless of what anybody else says. You know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And just leaning into that. So I think the thing that makes courage the easiest to do is to remind yourself that only good can come of this, and that God has your back and will support you. And it's going to come in a different way than you expect it. It's going to take a different form, and that's okay. You don't care how it comes. You just care that it comes. And everything is always working out for you. That's one of the ways that I actually got myself out of the bankruptcy and got myself out of that really, really low place, was as I was moving forward and we had, challenges come and adversities come. It was, everything is always working out for me, and only good can come of this. Only good can come of this. So we're in this really, really loud environment right now. So as we put our gentle voices, we don't have to scream to be heard. We don't need to do that. The people who are meant to hear us will hear us. But when we remember that as we speak and as we stand up and claim our spot, only good can come of this. Only good can come of challenges, and challenges are here because we're ready for it. And it's actually here to increase our capacity to experience more joy. And so sometimes things that we felt we really needed must be stripped away from us so that we can experience more joy. And then greater things that we can even possibly imagine, and greater people and experiences. Now we have room to be able to receive those. And I don't think anybody ever regrets telling the truth, not when they're really standing firm in their convictions of who they are and in what they know and believe to be true. I don't think they ever regret that.
Mm-hmm. And where misery happens, or where anxiety happens, or when you're not in alignment and you're not speaking your truth and you're hiding it, like you're going to get the proverbial 2x4 on your head after a while. Like if those little nudges keep happening, things are going to keep falling apart, or you're going to be depressed, or you're not standing in your power and your own truth. And then something cataclysmic, I can't say that word, cataclysmic.
Cataclysmic. There we go.
Might happen. And, if you hear about, when you see people that are really, like, a lot of people have to bottom out and then they rise from that. So if you don't listen to those little nudges first, you're going to bottom out, and then you're finally going to stand in that truth and that power.
Yes. And you know what? The bottoming out is not as horrific as we think it is. Like my biggest fear was bankruptcy. And I was trying to save my company for 2.5 years. So I felt like we were in this financial free fall for 2.5 years before we hit the bottom. So imagine jumping off of the edge of the Grand Canyon and I'm just clawing at anything I can. But at the end, like when we landed, I realized, you know what? That wasn't like an 8 million foot fall. It was actually like a 4-inch, like when I step off a curb that I didn't realize was there. So it was a little jolting, but I was completely fine. And so it was the thought of the bankruptcy that was so scary and made it so huge and so incredibly painful. But when I realized, man, we hit rock bottom, and that actually wasn't that far, and it wasn't that bad, because I decided it actually wasn't that bad. And this could be the greatest thing that ever happened. And that's exactly what it was. It turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened. So don't be afraid of the bottoming out. I think every person bottoms out, but our bottom is like different depths, I think, for different people. Because we're super stubborn as humans. And sometimes most of the time, we just don't want to listen, and we want to be right. And we'll sacrifice our happiness for being right. But when we'll finally when we finally listen, like that's when I listened. That's when I was the most teachable, because there wasn't anything else to lose. And so it was like, hey, this is the bottom. There's only one direction to go from here, and that's up. Sweet. I can do that. Let's do that. And now my bottoms are, shallower and shallower and shallower.
Yep. And like you were saying, everyone's bottom is different. Everyone reaches a bottom. I mean, maybe your relationship ended and you keep dating unavailable men. Okay, that's my bottom. I need to make a change. It could be a business. It could be, maybe your children aren't talking to you, or it could be the death of a spouse, or it could be an accident where you're physically incapacitated. And there's a certain point where you're like, or alcoholism. A lot of people go into addiction and then they pull themselves out of that and they become like really transformed. So it's like you could be nudged along the way, or that's your bottom, and then you rise from that. So your bottom might be losing your sponsorship, or speaking up, or not getting this medical intervention. Your family's not talking to you, or you're not able to go to a restaurant. Okay, like whatever, you're going to make this change, or you're going to get injured or something. But yeah, that's 100% true. And once you do, you just rise.
You do. I have a whole coaching program called Rise Up. So it's fun that you've said Rise Up a number of times. It's really fun.
Rise up, the rising of feminine. Yeah. Speaking of all that, like you have so many amazing programs that you're offering, mentoring. You wrote a book, The Prosperity Approach. You're a prosperity and success coach. I mean, Jesus, can you go over some of these programs that you have? I have them all written down. Oh, Rise Up. There it is. Energetic Connections. What you have to offer and what you're most excited about right now.
I have the whole gamut of what to offer, from free things to private mentoring that's high 5 figures for a year being with me and mentoring and coaching with me, and everything in between. The thing I'm most excited about is my program called Ascend. And also I do 2-day events called the Feminine Factor. I do free masterclasses called the Feminine Success, the Feminine Way, to really help women see the difference between feminine and masculine energy and how they're meant to work together, and how some changes need to be made so that women can trust their feminine and live there and tap into their masculine and create the life that they desire and fall in love with their life again. I have my own podcast. It's called The Prosperity Approach. So people can get to know me more there if you want to check me out there. If you want to learn more about feminine and masculine energy, I have free downloads. You can go to prosperityapproach.com/@a-glance. And that will give you just like a side by side of the different characteristics of each and how you show up in each of those energies. That was really helpful for me when I was first learning about how to be a woman and how to live in my feminine energy. And so I created a download for people to get some more education about that. I have free meditations you can grab on my website. You can go to AllysonChavez.com, get to know me and see my story a little bit more there. But I really want to serve people where they're at. And some people are just barely into their journey in prosperity or in feminine energy. Some people are more advanced and really want that hands-on approach, which I'm famous for. I can't not do anything 100%. And so I love journeying with people. I love linking arms with women and being part of their journey. I consider that such a sacred privilege and such an honor. And it's so much darn fun. It's so fun to see women who were where I was and catching up to, well, I hate to say catching up to me, but like just helping them on their journey so they can move faster on their journey than I moved on mine, because I experienced the pitfalls. I experienced going off the cliffs, and I know what to look for so I can guide them away from the cliff and away from the pitfalls. And it's so fun for women to click into who they are and their own worth and their own identity and how powerful they are to create the life that they desire in their money, in their health, in their relationships, in their connection with God or their higher power. That just gives me such a thrill. And I love this mission. I really do. I'm so thankful that it's mine.
That is beautiful. And you are so, it must be so rewarding
Oh, it
to
is.
offer what you're offering, being so, you're just giving so many gifts to the world. And when you're helping women, they help their families, they support, the men feel supported, the world changes. You're a change maker and you're
Yeah,
a woman supporting women. I love that. And it's so needed in our world right now.
it is.
And it's always needed. But
Mhm.
and you're also a change maker because you're willing to speak up against what the narrative is dictating out there, and they're dictating, and therein is you've got the whole totality of the femininity, the solar feminine, the lunar feminine, and then you're being supported by your masculine. It's such a beautiful thing.
It's wonderful. And you know what? I'm a work in progress like everybody
Everyone.
else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to remember to live in my feminine when I get
Mm-hmm.
really going, because it's natural for me to be in my masculine, because that's what we've
Mm-hmm.
been
Of
modeled and that's what
course.
we've been rewarded with. And that's what we've been taught. And
Mm-hmm.
so even as a teacher of this, I have to continually remind myself, like, okay, let's be a woman. You've been in too much masculine energy for
Mm-hmm.
too long.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get back into our feminine. And so lest anybody think that I have arrived, I am not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little bit ahead, a little farther along in the journey, maybe
Mm-hmm.
than some people are. And if you resonate with me and you resonate with my message, then maybe we can be a double blessing to each other. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to find out.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that it is so absolutely rewarding. I used to be bound in scarcity, Nancy. It's why I have great compassion for people who are just caught up in scarcity and not knowing who they are. And I looked very confident, but I was riddled with self-doubt
Mm-hmm.
all day and all night. And so I have compassion for that woman and that girl who I was. And I have so much excitement for who I have become and who I am becoming. And I love to see women, if we talk about transition, I love to see women who transition out of that self-doubt and out of that self-deprecation into who they truly are, and claiming their power and claiming their worth and their deservingness. And then watching that spread like wildfire. It
Mm-hmm.
is so absolutely satisfying.
Look at you. You're so beautiful. You're just like glowing right now. And that resonates because you're authentic, because you're saying, I don't know it all. I'm not this
Mm.
preacher on a pulpit up on a mountain preaching to the masses. Like, I've been through there. I know what it feels like. I know how it is. And look at where I've come to, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And there'll be something down the road, maybe 5 years from now, I'm not teaching now, that I learned along the way that I can now
Yeah.
offer even more.
Yeah,
So,
that's what's so exciting.
yeah.
That's what's so exciting. And and I work exclusively with women, because I know if I can help a woman to heal, she will
Mhm.
heal her family,
Mhm.
and that will heal the world. And we
Mhm.
talk about like the feminine will save the planet, and that's true. I do believe that empowered feminine energy coupled with empowered masculine energy is what's going to save our planet. But what it comes down to is the woman.
Mhm.
That when we can heal the woman, she'll heal her family and her marriage.
Mhm.
And then she and her spouse will, or her partner will then work together to heal the world.
Mm. I just had on my last podcast that I released, it's Terry Britt. She does unconditional self-love, the new family paradigm. And it's a whole like soul aligned family. And it's having unconditional self-love for yourself within and it just resonates outwards. And the whole
Yes.
family changes because of it. And that's what divine femininity is. And that's what everything comes from your self-love. It's loving yourself
Yes.
first. And
Yes.
it's having that, and then you give from the overflow. So you can't, so many women don't give to themselves
Mhm.
because we're taught, be the giver, like don't be selfish, like give. But if you don't, it's just like when the oxygen mask comes down from a
Mhm.
plane, you take care of yourself first so you can take care of others.
Yeah. And women are not natural givers. We're
Mhm.
natural receivers.
Mhm.
It's why we get so worn out and resentful and martyrish when all we do is give. We're
Mhm.
natural receivers, but then we're taught to receive for others, right?
Mhm.
Fill up your cup so you can serve others. No, no, no.
Mhm.
Fill up your cup for you.
Mhm.
And then we'll naturally spill over, like you said, serve from the overflow. That's what
Mhm.
we're meant to do. And when we're filled up, with pleasure and with play and with recovery and like all of those things, and we're filled up with self-love, it has a natural effervescence and it bubbles over. And we want to give. We want to serve. That's how we're wired. We're wired for community and connection and the we and the collective. So there's nothing selfish about filling up your cup for you. You become more effective as a mother, as a wife, as a lover, as a businesswoman, as a daughter, as a change maker, everything. You are exponentially more powerful when you will serve from the overflow. There's nothing selfish about that. But we have to be deprogrammed from that because we're taught that it's selfish.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's part of it. And I like that image of the effervescence coming out. I never thought of that bubbling over. I always think of like this cup filling over, but I always think of alchemy, like, the magic's inside the cup and then this. Yeah.
It just, and then it just goes everywhere and everybody's blessed by it.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Everybody's blessed by it.
It's beautiful. And that's how we change the world and we change the planet for the better. Yeah. And I absolutely loved our conversation. I mean, like I said at the beginning, we start to chat and we see where, God wants to go, where spirit leads us. And we had this beautiful conversation and it talked about a lot of the important things that are happening in our society right now that aren't being talked about enough and need to be talked about enough, because we are here, women supporting women, and in all aspects. So thank you for having the courage to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to bring this conversation up and in a safe environment. Thank you. Like, this has just been such a blessing. You blessed my life so much.
Oh,
today,
I love it.
So
I love it. Thank you so much. I have one more question before we go that I ask all my guests. I would love to hear from you what it means for you to live with an awakened heart.
When I live with an awakened heart, I live in curiosity. I live in wonder. And I live in detachment and willingness to lean in. That to me is what living in an awakened heart is.
I'm going to take that into my day with me today.
I hope it helps you.
Yes, it will. From what I started this conversation and centered to where I am now, it's like, whew, I'm going to just breathe that in.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on. And thank you for sharing your gifts to the world.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenheartpodcast.com.